Oh! Oh, he doesn't like that. He does not like that.
Every once in a while, you just got to have a palate cleanser. You know, you go out for a tasting menu, a 9-course meal, and you might have a sorbet in between the courses in order to cleanse your palate, in order to really get those succulent flavours. And today's PC build is something of a palate cleanser, because as you know, we enjoy the rich, tasty RGB on this channel. We do a lot of RGB gaming PCs, but every once in a while it is nice just to strip it back and just go for a pure sort of anti-RGB black gaming PC, and that's exactly what we're going to have today on Concept Soup YouTube channel. So lucky you. But of course, before we get into this really high-end RTX 3080 anti-RGB gaming PC, we've got to talk about the sponsor of the video, and that's me at jcpccustoms.com, where you can pick up your next gaming PC, including the one that we are putting together today, because that's the whole operation here. We've got some YouTube videos going because I really enjoy tech, but we're also selling PCs to help put food on my table. But they're really well put together. They're sort of enthusiast grade. It's as if you'd put it together yourself, but you don't have to worry about the time or anything going wrong with it, and you know that everything's going to be high quality. We've got pre-built PCs like the one here, or you can get in touch for a custom spec. Of course, the problem with the custom spec being that the graphics cards are hard to find, so these pre-built ones, they're already ready, so there's no wait time. They just dispatch straight away. So that's going to be my plug for jcpccustoms.com. Nice, high-quality gaming PCs. UK only, I'm afraid. But, you know, have a look around anyway if you're from Iceland or whatever. But that's the end of the sponsor spot. Let's get back into what we came to this video for, and that is the anti-RGB gaming PC. So, I think, like always, we're going to start by going through the parts that we're going to use today. Then later on, we'll just speed through the build process, a bit of gaming, and then discussion about what was good about the build and what maybe could have been improved. So let's strap on, not strap on, but let's get into the parts list. So first up on any parts list is going to be the processor, and from the tray today we are picking out the AMD Ryzen 7 5800X, and the reason we've chosen that is because it's just such a good gaming CPU. It's pretty much the best you can get, and the reason for that is because the new Ryzens have what we call an 8-core CCD or CCX. Basically, all the 1 cores are in one area, whereas on the higher core counts, like the 5900X or 5950X, they're split over 2 with an Infinity fabric that links them. And of course, with any kind of thing that's getting linked, there will be a latency associated with it. So that's why the Ryzen 7 is a really good gaming CPU, because it's very low latency, because as I said, it's all on that one CCD. So it's going to be really good for gaming. 8 cores, 16 threads, and it's so fast. It's so fast that you're not going to be disappointed with this. It's the perfect gaming CPU, especially for the other parts that we've got coming up today. So next on from that is obviously you've got to talk about what we're going to use to cool the CPU, because these Ryzens run hot. So we've gone for the Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 280, because these are just Boss coolers, thick radiator, 280mm. It's going to do a really good job, and there's no RGB on it at all. Motherboard, B550-A Pro. This is a really underrated board. It's very, very good. You could put the Ryzen 9s on this as well. Nice black aesthetic with no RGB. Memory, just pure optimized black RAM, 16GB DDR4, 3600, crucial ballistics. Again, not wasting any money with a nice, good value SSD, the Western Digital SN550, that's 1TB capacity. The video card today is the Gigabyte RTX 3080 Gaming OC. It does have a bit of RGB, but we're going to turn it off, but it's very minimal. Power supply today is the Corsair RM750, and that's going to give us nice high quality power supply to make sure we're going to run nice and smooth. We have a black Gigabyte AX200 Wi-Fi adapter, so we're on the latest Wi-Fi standard, and of course Like all the high-end builds, you want some sleeved cabling, and this black sleeve cabling is going to look really, really nice, and it's really going to give it that smoky effect. So I don't think there's much else in terms of components that we need to talk about, so let's go straight into a build-tage. And there's the build, and I think you'll agree, it's just a nice PC, this, isn't it? Because it's got that black and grey sort of look, and rather than go full black where it's just completely blacked out, having a bit of that sort of gunmetal grey in there does just accent it a little bit without being too fancy, and I think that's worked really, really well. Having the RGB turned off on the video card doesn't impact the way that it looks particularly, it still looks very nice. So overall I think this design came together really, really nicely. So let's get into some gameplay in the classic Concept Soup style with your cheeky boy Concept Soup, and we'll reconvene just after this gameplay.
Okay. Final game of the trio, Fortnite Battle Royale. We've had some good success with this in the past, but what can we do today, ladies and gentlemen? Let's make it a spectacle in front of your very eyes. Oh! You didn't think I'd get you with that flick on controller. But that's right, I'm here to stay. Oh! Oh! Oh, he doesn't like that. He does not like that. Oh yeah, whatever. Get out of my game right now. Hey, you gotta respect the effort. Didn't quite work out for you, buddy. Didn't quite hit the shot. Here we are, there's the settings, sort of like a high-ish type thing going on. Apply those settings in. There you crazy. Yeah, get out of here. Finish him off, mate. Will you die, man? Get out of here, scrubs.
You're up, soldier. Now go sort this fucker out.
Get me out of this ghoulie. Get me out of this ghoulie. Straight back to the TV station.
So, I hope you enjoyed that gameplay. That snipe was dirty in Fortnite. That was absolutely filthy. And a win. The guy tried to trick shot me, but K1 stuck. But hey, there's enough about that. Let's talk about the build process, what we liked, what we didn't like. And maybe we'll just get some temperatures ready as well. So, going through the temperature tests, we only do a couple of very basic tests. The first one is Prime 95 CPU torture test for 30 minutes. So we record the maximum CPU temperature. So this is went to 90 degrees Celsius, which is very high. And actually there's some weird results with Prime 95 that are all over the place. So I might have to find a different way to test the CPU temperature. It settled down to about 85 once everything was properly heat soaked. But still, that's a little bit higher than I would like. But I think that's because of Prime 95 being a very unrealistic load and a very dynamic load. I've had much lesser coolers than this doing a better job, and it just doesn't make sense. So I'm going to have to find another CPU test that's going to be a little bit better than this one. Because in games, the temperature is about 62 to 65 degrees. I mean, you would have seen it in the gameplay. It wasn't particularly high. I think the maximum was in the low 70s, which is perfectly fine, especially for these Ryzen processors where they do run quite hot. And I think there is a bit of a lottery in terms of those CPUs, which ones are going to run really hot as well. So maybe that's why those temperatures are a bit high, but for gaming usage it's going to be absolutely fine. Really, for even video editing usage it's going to be fine. I think these are just an artifact of this particular test. And don't forget that we also run this test at the same time as doing the video card temperature test, which will increase the generic heat inside the system, so that will have an effect as well. And talking about the video card temperature test, we use OCCT. And we run it for 30 minutes, and the maximum GPU temperature is 70 degrees, which is pretty much bang on the money, exactly what I expect from a Gigabyte Gaming OC. Nowhere near any kind of thermal throttling threshold, so really nice to see that. And now the gaming performance, absolutely brilliant, as you would expect from a 3080. I mean, it's a boss video card, isn't it? So in Fortnite, in the solo mode, our FPS average was 434 frames per second, and in COD Warzone, 234 frames per second. Just shows you how much harder it is to run COD Warzone at high, so those high FPS. So yeah, I mean, it is interesting, isn't it? How the difference in optimization makes a really big difference in the FPS, because there's these 360 Hz monitors out there, but it wouldn't be very useful for somebody that plays Warzone, but it would be very useful for somebody that plays Fortnite, CSGO, Valorant, these kind of games. But excellent performance all round. And the thing is with Warzone, it's very CPU dependent, so you could crank this up to 1440p medium and it would be around 200 frames per second, so it's not a big jump, and you'll get quite a big boost in picture quality. So it just shows that Warzone is very CPU demanding. And otherwise, let's talk about the build process. Of course, it's the Corsair 4000D Airflow. It's a brilliant case. Really, just everything, they've just really sort of tuned everything. Everything is laid out in a very sensible way. I think this is just, it's a modern standard of a case. It's very, very good. And of course, having the airflow panels on the front does allow the air to go through. One thing to note with this case is that the glass side panel on the black version is darkened. It's very dark, which looks really good for our use case, but perhaps if you're putting some RGB in it, something to think about is that those glass panels on this and the 4000X as well, they're going to be quite dark, so you might not be able to see your internal components very well, but it works really nicely for our particular use case. All the other components worked really, really well. I was thinking, you know, temperatures maybe on CPU could have been a bit better, but I'm going to put that down to the test really more than anything, because as I said, once we went into a gaming scenario, the temperatures were well under control, so nothing really to worry about there at all. And overall the design looks nice. As I said earlier, the black and gunmetal grey does look really nice, so if you're sick of seeing all those RGBs, this could be a really good build guide to follow, or just buy the PC outright, because it is probably available by the time this video goes out. So rather than waste your time any further, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to ask you to like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. What I like to see the most is a comment. Because I love chatting with you guys in the comments. If you've got questions about any of the parts, if you want to know any other questions about this PC, or if you just want to say, hey, good job, here's your comment for the algorithm, I'll take it. So there you go. Catch you later, sweet cheeks.